So we have Christian with us now.
Christian, can you hear us?
I
Yep,
can.
there you
Loud
go.
and clear.
All right. Well, first off, happy belated birthday.
Well, thank
Yes,
you for
happy
that.
birthday.
Thank you, guys.
So we'll just get right into it. So, in your latest article, you talked about this Islanders first line that has to start picking up the slack. They have 6 points in this series, and Barzal said it's about putting the puck in the net. How much do you look at this and go, is it a problem with Jordan Eberle just not finishing because he's had prime chances, or is it a line as a whole it just hasn't really been clicking this series?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say that I don't think they've been clicking. They've had their chances. I think it's been the finishing, and sometimes when you're on that cold of a streak, I guess you could say that, like anything else, you just start to overthink it. You grip the stick too tight, kind of all those cliches that we all kind of roll our eyes with. But at the same time, there's a bit of truth there. There's a reason why they're cliches, because there's a bit of truth. I think you see it there. Even last series, like Jordan Eberle is the guy who gets a lot of the focus, right? Because when you look at that line, it's Lee, Barzal, and Eberle, and the two guys that are supposed to score a lot of the goals there are Barzal and Eberle. So, when those two guys are not scoring, and they become the focal point of this. And with Eberle, I think the guy couldn't buy a goal last series, and it's got to be frustrating. And like I said, you start to grip the stick a little bit. You start to get a little frustrated. And I'm not saying that they've played terribly. Like they've had their chances. It's just finding that finishing touch. And of course, Andrei Vasilevsky's been playing phenomenal this entire series too. So it's kind of a perfect storm of everything where you get a couple guys who've been struggling to find the back of the net. You get a hot goaltender, and it combines to be a rough spot. The Islanders are going to need that scoring without a doubt. And you look at the comparison too, and I think that's part of it is the fact that the opponent's top line has been doing so well. Tampa Bay's top line has been doing so well. They had 6 points in the game in Game 4. The Islanders' top line has 6 points the entire series. So that also tends to become a focal point too when you're not scoring and they are, especially the top line that you're going against. So that only adds to the pressure.
Speaking of some moves that could be made tonight, Trotz alluded to that there may be a few line changes, maybe some mix-up. One thing I've heard is switching Anders Lee and Anthony Beauvillier. And, what can Beauvillier bring to this line if he's now put on the top line?
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Beauvillier, obviously, he's a pretty good addition to that top line, or would be a good addition to the top line, just because just changing it up a little bit. Anthony Beauvillier has been great too. When you look at the second line, you look at Brock Nelson's production as well. Beauvillier is a great assist guy. He has a great vision on the ice. I think the perfect example of that was the setup for the Brock Nelson goal the other day, where it was kind of that no-look pass off the rebound. And I mean, then the hustle play that he had there too to kind of outwork the Tampa Bay Lightning defenders to get to the puck and set up a goal there. So I think that it would do the Islanders well. I mean, it also just changes things up, right? And sometimes that's just the easiest thing. Like even the simplest fix sometimes is the best one. So he certainly brings a lot to that line if that's the possibility that they go with. They certainly bring a guy that knows how to move the puck and certainly knows how to create chances and put a couple back in the back of the net as well. So he brings all that to whichever line that he'll be on if that decision is made.
Yeah, we really saw his speed too, especially in the Capital Series when he makes his own plays and stuff like that. I think that's something that he could really help alongside Barzal, maybe even getting Eberle going. Looking at the fourth line, Zizekas has left the bubble with Kunako, but obviously Zizekas is the main storyline. Obviously, we don't know what the injury is, but he had to leave the bubble, which means it's probably serious and he won't return. Pajot has been a great fit on that line, but Zizekas hasn't been scoring, and people think, well, he's not scoring, he's not doing anything. But we know Zizekas as a guy on the fourth line that does a lot more than what the stat sheet shows. So what is him not being in this lineup tonight and the last couple of nights? How does that really impact this Islander team?
Well, I think it tests that center depth, right? We talked about it a lot going into the postseason in some of these series where the Islanders finally had the center depth that they so desperately needed during the regular season, especially after, even after Pajot got here, where, he was kind of asked to do a little bit more because the Islanders were trying to fill in some of the gaps there without, a guy like Zizekas there to center the fourth line. He's a solid face-off guy. I mean, obviously he's been given a few opportunities and big moments to take defensive zone face-offs throughout the playoffs, and sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, but more often than not, it works. And he's been pretty strong in the face-off dot. So that's a huge loss for the Islanders right there. You talk about a guy that knows how to kill penalties. He can be an asset on the power play as well a little bit. And you lose that energy guy. The fourth line is always talked about as the energy line. So you take him out of the equation. And that's not to say it changes the play of Cal Clutterbuck or Matt Martin, but it certainly changes the dynamic of that line. And he can play that physical style that they do and still complement it with some of the offensive skill set that he has. And, I guess you could say that Matt Martin picks up some of the slack there with 5 goals in the postseason too. So he's kind of been the offensive juggernaut on that line, which is, an interesting turn of events too. So, but yeah, you look at the loss of Casey Zizekas, and that's a big one for the Islanders. They've managed to kind of make up for it by, getting Pajot involved and, kind of these makeshift lines that they've put together. So it worked. I don't want to say that there was too much of a drop off last game, because the difference in game 4 was not, losing a defensive zone faceoff draw or anything like that. It was a couple mental mistakes there right after the Brock Nelson goal that gave the Islanders the lead in the second period. So, but it hurts them nonetheless.
So we're going to give you a chance now to look like an absolute genius. Which player tonight do you think steps up and comes through to help the team avoid elimination?
You mean the chance to look like a fool?
Well, no, everyone's always wrong.
Yeah, right. I'll go out on a limb and say I think this is the game that the Islanders top line gets together and figures it out a little bit here. And I think you'll see Barzal get on the board, and I think you'll see Eberle pot one, which is a very, very bold prediction. So
very bold.
I will ask you to delete this entirely if I'm wrong. But I think I'll give them the edge here, because I think they understand. I think they've had to answer questions the last couple of days about it. It's been the focus really from NYI Hockey Now, it's Newsday, it's the Post, to every other media outlet that's been covering this series, is the lack of production from those guys. And they're very well aware of the need and the urgency for them to find the back of the net and put up some points, because the Islanders, as they've said countless times, they're at their best when all four lines are rolling. And when you don't have that top line production, it puts a lot more onus on the other lines there. And you don't have all 4 lines are rolling. So this is an opportunity, and I think they'll take advantage of it to get back to that and, put up a couple points on the board for the Islanders tonight. They need to. This is the game that if they're going to do it, this is it.
Yep.
No choice.
Yep, I do agree. I think Barzal is going to get a couple, but the usually
you don't want to go with me on Eberle, huh?
Well, Eberle, I'm the host, so I can't delete this, so I have to go on the easier side. But the usually sturdy Islanders defense, right? They've been victimized a couple of times by the cross ice pass, numerous times in the series by the Tampa Bay Lightning. How can they prevent those seam passes and come away victorious in a do or die game 5?
Yeah, no, I think it's really been the fact that, Tampa is such a quick team that the Islanders have struggled to kind of match that and follow that up. And I think you saw that in the way that in 27 seconds, the Tampa Bay Lightning went from losing the game 1-0 to winning the game, because they transition right there, right off the draw, the ability to move the puck right from their own blue line, right to, basically a kind of home run pass to Blake Coleman to set up that the breakaway goal there. And then the perfection passing from the top line there. The Islanders it's been tough for the Islanders. There's been some mismatches. They've gotten caught flat-footed a little bit, and I think that's kind of just getting back to the basics. And guys maintaining the pressure on their guy. I mean, another great example of that was the tapping goal that I believe that was Braden Point, if I'm not mistaken, got the goal. Where there's no one down low to take him. He's just sitting there on the side of the net, and he gets 2 or 3 whacks at that. So, you just can't have that. I think that was Matt Barzal's guy too. And Barzal kind of just skated by and didn't come back to try and push him off. So I think it's really just, they got to take advantage of, or not take advantage. They have to stick with their guy and just be cognizant of the defensive assignments, especially when things start to get hairy like that. And then, like you were saying, they just need to get sticks in the passing lanes and break up some of those chances. It's not rocket science sometimes what Tampa Bay is going to do. They just do it so effectively sometimes that the Islanders look a little silly. And, that go-ahead goal there in the second period certainly was one of those instances.
I think you nailed it on the head with the transition game for the Lightning. It's been just They've blown every team. That's how they've been winning. The Islanders dump. First off, the Islanders do a very poor job of getting out of their zone, and when they do, they get it barely out of their zone, which allows Lightning to just go back in and do their job as the Islanders are changing from tired. And I think from being tired, excuse me, that's the biggest key for them. Why they've been so dominant in these playoffs? Just their puck movement from defense to offense is just stellar.
Yeah, and I mean too, the funny thing is that's kind of where the Islanders' bread and butter is when they're playing at their best, right? They're a very good defensive team, which translates to creating those offensive opportunities. And you've seen that in bits and pieces, but they really haven't been able to establish that as much as I'm sure they'd like to. And then comparatively, you look at the way Tampa Bay's been able to do that. They dominate the offensive zone. Possession time has been skewed in their favor at certain points. And then, of course, it's just taking advantage of those little mistakes. When the Islanders get caught flat-footed, and when there's a little mistake, a bad turnover, that's been the difference maker. You look at a lot of these games, the Islanders are not playing bad. They're playing right there with them at points, but it's those little mistakes that they're just not going to get away with against Tampa Bay. They got away with them against Washington and Florida. Philadelphia, you start to saw the tide turn a little bit, where Philadelphia was kind of doing the same thing, where they were creating those opportunities with an aggressive style of play and throwing the Islanders off their game, and then capitalizing on these little mistakes. And now you're seeing it again with Tampa Bay, which, you look at the roster that Tampa Bay has, it's an even tougher roster. It's an even more talented roster than Philadelphia was. And they have the firepower, even without Steven Stamkos in the lineup, that's going to burn you every time when you give them the opportunity to.
And I think before we let you go, I think one thing about the Islanders is, it seems like they keep making those simple, stupid mistakes that are costing them. But then you look at it and you know what? This Islanders defense is so good, but Tampa's just so aggressive, the forechecking, that they're forcing these mistakes. It's not like the Islanders are just, Taves trying to dump it into the zone and ices the puck. But you look at it and you look at the replay, there's a Tampa guy coming full speed at them. They have less time to make decisions. That's really, it's pretty much the speed and the thinking of the Lightning is just a lot higher than every team they face, including the Islanders.
Yeah, there's a reason why this team was incredible during the regular season. And, they've really kind of bowled over their opponents during the postseason here. You're seeing it firsthand. The Islanders are, like you said, they're a good team. They're not playing terribly. Some of those turnovers, I would disagree, are maybe their own doing more so than some of the pressure that Tampa Bay's putting on them. But Tampa Bay, they're putting a lot of pressure on the Islanders. And their defense and that team is not afraid to throw bodies around. So, you're seeing it too. Again, going back to what I was saying before, the Islanders kind of got thrown off their game against Philadelphia too when they upped their physical play. And that's not to say the Islanders can't match it or they can't play physically. But when you combine all those factors into the circumstance that they're in right now, you're seeing why those mistakes are being made. You're seeing why they're behind the series. You're seeing why the Lightning are taking advantage of some of these errors that they're making, because they are so quick and they are such a talented team that the Islanders just can't afford to do that. And then the Islanders have the skill set. They're also just not capitalizing on their own chances too. That's been the biggest storyline too. When you talk about the power play, when you talk about some of these missed chances in the top line, they've been there. Those opportunities have been there. They just haven't capitalized them. And then you look at Tampa Bay, they have. And here we are, a 3-1 series hole going into a game 5.
Well, Christian, thank you very much for joining us today. And hopefully we can blast that prediction out full wide after Barzal and Eberle both pot a couple. So I think that we're going to be in good hands with that prediction. I have a feeling that you're going to be correct.
If they score, I want the two of you tweeting it out from the mountaintops that I said this first at 6:40-ish before the game started. We
got it recorded, so we're Perfect. Gonna as soon as you're correct, the first goal. What if it's 5 minutes in? Then you're gonna see Stefan tweeting out everything right away anyway. So.
I better. I'm telling you, if I'm not coming back on. Like this is gold I'm giving you here.
Yeah, I don't know if the mountaintops has good Wi-Fi, but we'll really try. All right, man, Christian, thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully the Islanders give you a nice birthday win. If not, I'll have to buy you something. So we'll talk later.
It's just good for the website, obviously, for NYI Hockey Now. It's good for that and Hockey Night in New York. As a media member, that part is kind of gone, but the storylines and just keeping this run going is good for for people who are covering the Islanders.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Take care. Enjoy the game tonight. Again, happy belated birthday. You don't look a day over 23, so enjoy, man.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.